So Canada's back in action, of course, in camp this week, up against the States and Mexico. If you haven't heard our chat with Jesse Marsh from last week, please do. Very interesting. Nathan Saliba, the most recent call-up, as Sam Adekubi is injured. Dubs, youngster from Montreal. What do we expect from Nathan Saliba?
Well, I think before I get into Saliba as a player, I think this is Jesse Marsh again, because he could play, I think, for 2 other countries, Haiti being one of them. So it's an opportunity to get in another one of these dual nationals, maybe not as pressing. But with all the talk about Sam Piet being left off, I think for the first time in about a decade since he's been eligible, barring injury and things like that, it's interesting that to replace Adekubi, he goes with another midfielder from CF Montreal. But Saliba's got a massive upside. I mean, great leadership qualities at a young age, sets a high standard for himself. And I think in the middle of the park for CF Montreal has kind of been in purgatory in a sense, whereas like, where is he best deployed? Is he more of a holder, more of like a 6, or is he more of a true box to box? I think he's more of like a classic 8. And then with Choinière gone, I think it'll give him a little bit more space to express himself in that role. But he's tidy in possession, works well in tight areas. He's simple on the ball, like a Piet, but has that acceleration, has that pace with the ball, where he can find those gaps and really drive into that space, and also connect well, can pass the ball well. So I don't know if he gets any minutes, but I think it's a good nod to him. That Marsh has got his eye on him, and then he's his tab maybe to kind of fill in that role, for maybe a decade to come. If Piet's in the twilight of his national team career, well, this is Saliba just beginning his.
Probably just dying to get out of Montreal for a couple of weeks, right?
Oh my God, no kidding. Bleak.
Nope. Bleak is a good word. It's a good word, bleak. So we've got 3 legends of Canadian football here in Dubs and Jimmy and Craig and Wonga. I don't want to take you back too far, but I have no choice really here. Do you remember your first call-ups and how you were told, Craig? And any memories from that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was hoping I would have gone to the '86 World Cup team. I was pretty young at the time. I think I was always 17, some 18, I guess. But so in '88 it was actually my manager at Ipswich at the time who said they had would have been email? No. They had a phone call. Had a letter sent to them, maybe.
Who was the manager? Who was the manager, Craig?
And then, they said you've been picked for the national team. You've got appearances coming up this summer in the Sir Stanley Matthews Cup against Chile and Greece.
Who was the manager, sorry, Craig, for Ipswich? Who told you?
John Duncan.
Oh, damn it.
Too bad.
It wasn't Bobby Ferguson.
Oh, no, it wasn't Fergie.
If it was Fergie, how would he have asked you? How would he have told you if it was?
He would have said, "You're not going." And they don't even play football. And they call it soccer.
But it was Matthews Cup. That's great.
Thought as a young man or woman, like you come, I don't know what you guys, but it was somewhat intimidating. You got the older players, Carl Valentine were there, Dale Mitchell, Catliff, Colin Miller. Like it was a little bit on the intimidating side, being that young, going in there and sort of finding your feet.
Who welcomed you? Was Frank in that squad?
No, Frankie wasn't, because Frank didn't get his clearance to play for Canada for some time, because back in the day, playing for youth teams, international youth teams, would buy you. So he had played for England youth team and he wasn't eligible. And it wasn't until Bobby Robson, because of the connection Frank had with Bobby Robson, knowing him, he signed Frank at Ipswich, got a hold of FIFA and said that he's got no fucking chance of playing for England.
That's great.
Take him.
Take him.
Hey, Jimmy, do you remember your first call-up?
I do. It was against Northern Ireland. The manager, I was at Bristol City at the time. And I actually got called up by Scotland and Ireland before that. And I was supposed to go represent one of them playing friendlies. But I couldn't play because I played with Canada at the Under-17 World Cup. And back then, once you were cap tied like with that country once you played an international game. It's not like today where you can move around. And I think after they found out that I got called up by those two countries, and Canada called me and said, okay, well, we want you to come play. And I got called into the office. I think it was George Jordan at the time. And he says, listen, you just got a call up from Canada. You got a game against Northern Ireland. So someone from the CSA called me and told me I had to get dressed up. You had to look the part. Letter came through. I'm reading it. I'll go, no problem. I'll put my suit on and I'll look dapper.
And your tight pants?
I get to the airport, I fly over, and then I get there. I'm the only one in a suit. Over there is Craig Forrest with a pair of jeans on and a t-shirt, Mark Watson, Paul Pescisolito. I looked like an absolute tit. Only one getting on the team bus. Got this tie on, nice proper suit, little bag. Looked like an absolute loser. But it's right, because it was kind of intimidating, because we had a lot of guys with character in that team. And so when I got there, they're taking the piss out of me right away. But after a little bit, you settled in, because it was myself and Mark Burcham as well. He was making his debut. So when you had older guys that had a bit about them and good character and banter, it made it a lot easier to settle in. That's for sure.
Mark Burcham, sort that actually gets intimidated by anything, to be honest.
What's that, Burchie?
Burchie doesn't get intimidated by anything. He was singing the national anthem like as hard as anybody could possibly sing it, and he hadn't even been to Canada yet.
Yeah.
Jimmy told that story to Jesse Marsh the other day, Forrest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You should give it a listen at some point. It's pretty good.
I remember sitting beside him just looking
at
him. How does this guy know this anthem? Never been to Canada before. And it was his grandfather that was from Winnipeg, beautiful Manitoba.
That's right.
Jimmy, who took you under the wing? Who said, hey, I'm going to take this little arrogant motherfucker and bring him under the Canadian wing and settle him down? Who was that?
To be fair, they all did.
Oh, cool.
Like Sachs and Waddy, Pesci. I was really close with them. Really, really close with those guys.
That English brash, sort of confidence from playing over there. So we knew the character and the sort of person that Mark Burcham was. And he was a breath of fresh air, to be honest with you, when he came in, wasn't he? Like, he was great. He scored and he's kissing the badge. He's kissing the Canadian badge.
Yeah.
Who was coaching? Was it Holger? Or was it
Holger?
It was Holger.
Holger did he? He didn't like him. He didn't like it, that brash sort of English confidence and laughing.
Strange how a German wouldn't like that.
Yeah. Well, Holger got it right, though. I mean, we had a good balance. We had some good young players, and we had the older players, and it was just it was a good mix, really good mix. That's when we ended up winning the Gold Cup, and we had a good team. Really did.
Dubs, do you remember the moment when you got the call? You played age grade for a while, right? As well.
Well, yeah, not for a while.
But getting the senior call up.
Yeah, but the one that sticks in my mind is when I first got the nod to play for Canada at the U20 level. Because I don't even know if there were younger age groups prior to that. But like my kind of ascent to the Quebec teams, to the national teams came late, and it came kind of fast, where like all of a sudden, like I was a good athlete. Then I was like acquired a lot of technical skill that at least allowed me to compete. And then my athleticism kind of took over. And so I made Quebec teams and was eligible to play Canada games, but I think I went down to Nebraska, so never ended up playing. But I was actually out on a pitch as part of a Quebec team camp. And it was my coach who had also coached me in CEGEP, a guy named Dean Howie. I was taking free kicks at the end of practice. We were staying at dorms somewhere, like in Sherbrooke, like a foggy, like really damp day. And he was like, hey, I just got off the phone with somebody before practice today, but I wanted to wait until it was done to let you know. But you've been called in to represent Canada at the U20 level. And I was like, what? Like thinking he was kind of winding me up, like that it had to have been a mistake.
It's typical Dubs, eh? Didn't believe it. I'm not that good. I can't be that good. No, not that good.
No, but it's true. But then like I went in and I had... I didn't have like a swagger or kind of that brash confidence like Forrest is talking about, with you guys playing over in England or an English player and you suit up for Canada. But I just had kind of a blind, almost naive confidence in my own abilities, even though it wasn't, you know, like that kind of swashbuckling kind of aura or air. And I did really, really well. And that kind of carried me on into McGill. And I turned down a scholarship to go to Nebraska. And I played like shit at McGill, or the level was shit. And then I got cut from the first time I ever got called into the senior national team. And it took until I played at Nebraska to get my level back up to where I knew it could be. And then I was a starter on that team, and we won CONCACAF in '98. But it's interesting, like the different pathways and where it takes you.
Dubs, you remember your call up for the full national team?
No, see, I don't.
You don't
I think it was probably still, because remember the women's nationals. Well, you guys maybe don't, but like for the longest time, or at least when I was first with the program in '97 and '98, it was like a summer intensive. It was like a summer job. There was nothing else throughout the year. You were, you know, in camp for like 3 months, and that's when you would, you know, play CONCACAF, you would play any friendlies, and then it would go dormant for 9 months, and then it would start up again in the summer.
That's crazy.
Different
the game was. Yeah,
Yep.
very different now.
Yeah.
Where it should be. If anyone out there remembers Dubs' debut, please let us know.
Well, I remember my debut, like
okay.
the first time I got called
But
into
being
the
called up,
national
yeah.
team camp.
There must be someone listening who
I was
in that
terrible.
residence who remember.
What was your hair like? Your debut?
We can find a picture probably.
Like was it?
Was short.
Short.
It was short. Yeah, it was like being like growing out from the shaved head look.
Mm.
Yeah.
The shaved head look, amazing.
Yeah.
Was there anything like this one here?
Oh no! Please don't show that one. Charles, take it away. I hate that one. I think Chubby and Spotty, take it away.
I think Jimmy and Craig are funnier than you, though.
No,
you Chubby. What are you talking about?
Did you say Chucky? Or Chubby.
Guys are dicks.
That's funny.
Chucky. Nice.
That's her new nickname.
Chucky, it is.
No, Chucky legit gave me nightmares. I watched it like a friend sleepover in grade 7, and I had nightmares for 2 years.
He was a little fucker, wasn't he?
Yes.
Well, it's like looking in the mirror, Dubs.
Really?
Let's not make fun of Dubs anymore. Come on.
I did.
Well, start that.
Well, and speaking of making fun of Dubs, but in the opposite way, I've been keeping track of some of the amazing linguistics, gymnastics that Dubs throws our way. And for this episode, I'm going to go through a couple of the gems that she's dropped today. Shambolic, juxtaposition, microcosm, superlatives, trajectory, a nice phrase, other side of the coin, zeitgeist, of course, bleak and swashbuckling. So
swashbuckling, I actually
nice
really
stuff.
leaned into that one because it was good.
Lots of syllables. No.
Yeah, that's the word.
There we go. Yeah, lots and lots. Definitely the best vocabulary out of all of us, which isn't saying that much.
No,
I don't know.
What's that?
What's that, Craig?
Close. He's close to Dubs with his vocabulary.
Who is?
Jimmy.
Cutting. Oh, Jimmy. Yeah, you're cutting out. Yeah, very close. So just to stay on this, when you first get the call up, or your first experience with the senior players, do you feel that you have to make a name for yourself in that session? Are you targeted, Craig? I mean, your goalkeeper is a little bit different. I understand that, but that first session when you are a little bit intimidated by these veterans out there, do you try and do something to prove yourself?
Yeah. No, you're always proving yourself. You want to prove yourself to your teammates and them having the confidence with you behind them in the goal. So more so in the game, is what you do when the lights come on, and whether you can actually perform is the most important thing. And yeah, there's some pressure there for sure.
It's like my sex life. When the lights come on, you got to perform.
You make a real effort.
At night, you don't have to worry about it.
What's your first call up then, Wonger?
Oh, there was no. Oh, yeah. Well, but I was really drunk at 17.
No.
Hold on, was that the
Please.
call up the stairs to a commotion happening in the parents' room?
Well, jeez, that was 12, and we don't need to.
It's a terrible commotion. Jimmy, do you remember your first session out there as a young? Were you there as a fullback or a midfielder?
Midfielder.
Midfielder. Okay, so you were right in the engine room. Do you remember having to prove yourself?
No, I think because I knew a lot of the players, and plus I played against them in England, right? So for me, they knew what I was all about. I knew what they were all about. But then your first session, yeah, you do want to prove that you belong there. And I wanted to hold down my job on that left side. So every training session, every match, you worked your ass off because I wanted to cement that position.
How about you, Chucky? Remember yours?
Fucking asshole, you know that? Yeah, well, for me, it was coming off that really disappointing camp in 97 where I was highly touted coming out of that U20 program and just laying an egg. Like Forrest used that turn of phrase to describe Casemiro, but that was me. It was underwhelming. And like to know when it's happening and to have the self-awareness that you're shitting the bed is a terrible feeling, but you're unable to change it. And then I just kind of had to see out the rest of that camp. And then when I came back the summer after that in 98, I had a year at Nebraska under my belt. I had my coach, John Walker, who was there as an assistant coach, but it was going in there to not only change the mind of the head coach, who was still Neil Turnbull. And he had a conversation with me at the cafeteria. It was maybe like 5 days into camp, and we were there for like 2 weeks, I think, before the team was made. And he had a casual conversation with me where I was nervous to speak to him because I was aware of how terrible my own performance had been. And he was like, yeah, Amy, I was really expecting a lot more from you this camp. And just like kind of crumbling, like I just wanted to drop like my cafeteria tray and like walk out of there crying, but I didn't. You just like nod and smile and continue to have the conversation. And then the next summer when I was back in, thinking like that first practice, that first tackle, that first touch, that I had so much to prove, but there was an ease about it because I had the confidence and the belief in myself that I was going to be able to impose myself no matter what. But like it happened instantly that I found my spot, that I carved out that spot for myself in the middle of the park, and just became somebody that was looked to as like a dominant player. But it's because I believed it myself. And then I remember when I was out of the national team for a little while, in the mid 2000s, I missed the 2003 World Cup. I tore my PCL in 2002 and then kind of came back and then again, didn't have confidence, was let go of the professional side and in WSA where I was in Bay Area and then Atlanta and then not kept on as an international. And like all of that self-doubt had crept in and then had a couple of practices that weren't my best. And then I was thinking like, holy shit, like this is it. Like if I don't perform here, like this is my chance at the national team again, like a crack at it. I've been given a second chance and I'm going to fuck it up. And then having that pressure on myself and then being able to turn the tide. And then there's something that's really rewarding about that as a player, where you're able to get it done at the next level, or you're able to do it in that different environment where it's a test for yourself. And it's less about proving it to others, but about proving it to yourself.
But you were forced to learn early on that it wasn't child's play.
Motherfucker. I really took a stab at it.
Overall, I think Amy was very sharp. You were very sharp.
It's on the ledge waiting.
Overall.
I was looking at you and I was mostly talking Sharms. And I remember thinking like, oh, he's maybe not that into my story. And meanwhile, you were just thinking about that line.
You know how it works. You know how it works. You know how it works better than most. You get, I've got to find a way to get this in there.
Like a knife.
Well done. Well done, Sharms.